Hey all, Will Healy here, and happy Workforce Wednesday. You know, I was recently cooking in my kitchen and thinking about the workforce because I had heard, actually I was listening to my Alexa tell news updates, and I heard someone talking about how people don't want to work. And I have to, when I think about that and I look at the numbers, when I look at 2021 data from the census, from BLS, from Statistica, from Pew, we put that together. I don't think the problem is that people don't want to work, and hear me out on the numbers. I found that, you know, there are 332 million people in the United States. There are 198 million people who are 18 to 64. There are 56 million people who are 65 plus. There's 154 million employed people right now in the United States, and there are 99 million adults not in the labor force. When we kind of break down that 198 million 18 to 64 and we break down the 154 that are employed, that leaves a gap of 44 million of people who are not in the labor force. That sounds like an opportunity, right? Well, maybe not, because when we look into why are adults not in the labor force, we see there are 2 million people in our prison system. There are 10 million disabled people 18 to 24 who are unable to participate in the labor force for various reasons. There's 1 million people in the 1.2 million people in the armed forces. Thank you for your service, those of you that have been in the armed forces. There are 15 million people in school who are adults in post-secondary education, and there are 11 million homemakers. And thank you to all of the homemakers out there. That is a hard job. It is not to be understated. And then in that 99 million, there's 49 million retired people in that 99 million adults not in the labor force. So when we look at our 44 million of 18 to 64, and we put into it 2 million in prison, and 10 million people with disabilities, and 1 million in the armed forces, and 15 million in school, and 11 million as homemakers, that doesn't leave a big gap of people. Of course, there are some people that don't want to work. I totally get that. But I think generally speaking, there's not a magic 30 million people just sitting out there, sitting out of the workforce, twiddling their thumbs. I think there's really a challenge and a tight labor market for all of us, and that's something we have to think about. How are we working to attract veterans? You know, with the Advanced Manufacturing Industry Partnership, we're working with manufacturers to attract veterans. How are you working to attract second chance citizens and people who are leaving prison to come work for you? Or maybe I've heard some cool stories about companies employing people with disabilities purposely and bringing them into the workforce. And so how are you rethinking, like with schools, apprenticeships and co-ops and internships, how are you working to engage other avenues, that 44 million? How are you working to engage that 44 million? Not necessarily the retired, but the almost retired. How can we extend their careers 2-3 years by investing in automation or investing in people-centric technologies or exoskeletons or you know, things that remove the physical parts of the job? So I'm very curious your thoughts on the numbers I presented here and what you're thinking about. Is there a giant pool of people magically sitting somewhere that are not working, or does this kind of make sense to you and kind of explain why we're really struggling to find people in all areas of the workforce, not just in manufacturing? So love to hear your comments below. Until next time, ask yourself, what will I automate next?